good afternoon, everyone. As promised, day 4 yesterday, we're back here with another class, YouTube Live. Today, we'll be discussing CAT 2022 RC Slot 2. If you remember, day 4 yesterday, we discussed Slot 1, and today, we'll be discussing Slot 2. Without further ado, let's move forward. So, this is the first passage. We'll come back to the passage in a minute. You may wish to read the passage, you may wish to read the questions first. So, let's see, this is the question. Which one of the following best describes the word epiphenomena in the last sentence of the passage? Okay. All of the following statements may be considered valid inferences from the passage except, तो इनमें से तीन में से चार will be valid inferences, एक नहीं होगा. आपको बताना है कौन सा वाला नहीं होगा. No amount of social analysis can account fully for the existence of Michelangelo or Leonardo. Okay. In light of the passage, which one of the following interpretations of this sentence is the most accurate? चलिए देखेंगे इसको भी. Seeing operates on the foundation of covenants with images that establish the conditions for meaningful visual experience. Seeing operates on the foundation of covenants with images that establish the conditions for meaningful visual experience. तो हम इस लाइन को ध्यान में रखेंगे. In light of the passage, which one of the following statements best conveys the meaning of this sentence? Okay, देखते हैं क्या meaning होगा. Which set of keywords below most closely captures the arguments of the passage? So, order बताना होगा आपको इसमें कि passage का order क्या है. ठीक है. I'll give you some time to read the passage and then we'll get to the questions. Okay? done with this page, let me know. I will move forward. I'm gonna turn the page now. Read this quickly. All right. Let's read the passage again one more time. I'll take you through it. I would not say it's a difficult passage, but it's not a very easy passage either. Interesting, yes, for sure. If you're interested in art, this is just right down your alley. But we'll take a look at it nevertheless. Okay. The claims advanced here may be condensed into two assertions. Condensed is to brought together, like summarized as. First, that visual culture is what images, acts of seeing, and attendant intellectual, emotional, and perceptual sensibilities do to build, maintain, or transform the worlds in which people live. Alright. Second, that the study of visual culture is the analysis and interpretation of images and the ways of seeing that configure the agents, practices, conceptualities, and institutions that put images to work. So first is what the images, and the second is how they are perceived. Accordingly, the study of visual culture should be characterized by several concerns. First, scholars of visual culture need to examine any and all imagery, high and low, art and non-art. They must not restrict themselves to objects of a particular beauty or aesthetic value. Indeed, any kind of imagery may be found to offer up evidence for the visual construction of reality. So we have to examine art and non-art. They cannot restrict themselves to objects of particular beauty or aesthetic value. Second, the study of visual culture must scrutinize visual practice as much as images themselves. So visual practice as well as images themselves, as in what the images are and how they are being looked at. Asking what images do when they are put to use. If scholars engaged in this enterprise inquire what makes an image beautiful or why this image or that constitutes a masterpiece or a work of genius, they should do so with the purpose of investigating an artist's or a work's contribution to the experience of beauty, taste, value or genius. So, purpose क्या होना चाहिए? Investigate an artist or work's contribution to the experience of beauty, right? No amount of social analysis can account fully for the existence of Michelangelo or Leonardo. They were unique creators of images that changed the way their contemporaries thought and felt, and have continued to shape the history of art, artists, museums, feelings, and aesthetic value. But study of the critical, artistic, and popular reception of works by such artists as Michelangelo and Leonardo can shed important light on the meaning of these artists and their works for many different people. And the history of meaning making has a great deal to do with how scholars as well as lay audiences today understand these artists and their achievements. Lay is common, like somebody is not very well read. Layman bolte na. A history of meaning making has a great deal. What is the meaning the art makes? Third, scholars studying visual culture might properly focus their interpretative work on life worlds by examining images, practices, visual technologies, taste and artistic style as constitutive of social relations. The task is to understand how artifacts contribute to the construction of a world. Important methodological implications follow. Ethnography and reception studies become productive forms of gathering information, since these move beyond the image as a closed and fixed meaning event. Fourth, scholars may learn a great deal when they scrutinize the constituents of vision. So, right, scholars may learn a great deal when they scrutinize the constituents of vision, that is, the structures of perception as a physiological process, as well as the epistemological framework informing a system of visual representation. Vision in a socially and biologically constructed operation depending on the design of the human body and how it engages the interpretive devices developed by a culture in order to see intelligibly. Seeing operates on the foundation of covenants with images that establish the conditions for meaningful visual experience. Finally, the scholar of visual culture seeks to regard images as evidence for explanation, not as epiphenomena. So, we regard images as evidence for explanation, not as epiphenomena. I think, so epiphenomena will be the opposite of evidence for explanation. Which of the following best describes the word epiphenomena? So, if I talk about the passage in a nutshell, it is saying there are two aspects of a passage. What is the art form and how it is seen? Now, if we have to analyze, the study of visual culture should be characterized by several concerns. Then they go out to talk about the concerns. Scholars should examine any and all imagery. They must not restrict themselves to objects of a particular beauty or aesthetic value. All sorts of imagery needs to be examined. It must scrutinize visual practice as much as images themselves. सो विजुअल प्रैक्टिस इज हाउ यू लुक एट इमेजेस. तो आप स्क्रूटनाइज सिर्फ ये नहीं देखोगे कि अब जो आर्ट फॉर्म है वो कैसा है, आप ये भी देखोगे हाउ इट इज बीइंग लुक्ड एट बाय अदर पीपल. Third is scholars studying visual culture might properly focus their interpretative work on life worlds by examining interpretative work on life worlds as constitutive of social relations. तो उसका मतलब उस society में क्या role था. Fourth, scholars may learn a great deal when they scrutinize the constituents of vision, perception as a physiological process. Perception की बात कर रही थी हमने शुरू में. So in a nutshell, on all we're saying, आपको दोनों चीजें देखनी पड़ेंगी, not just the art form but also the way it is being looked at. Now let's move to the questions. Which of the following best describes the word epiphenomena in the last sentence of the passage? It says, regard images as evidence for explanation, not as epiphenomena. So probably it would mean opposite of it. A phenomena amenable to analysis? No. If you see, it says evidence for explanation, not as the other way around. Phenomena supplemental to the evidence. That's the opposite of what is being said. Amenable to analysis की बात नहीं हुई है. Overarching collections of images की बात नहीं हुई है. Visual phenomena of epic proportions की भी बात नहीं हुई है. Epiphenomena has to be the opposite of this. Clearly, option B. All of the following statements may be considered valid references from the passage except artifacts are meaningful precisely because they help to construct the meanings of the world for us. Stated है. ठीक है. Interpretative of life worlds. So A तो true है. Studying visual culture requires institutional structures without which the structures of perception cannot be analyzed. Guys, there is no talk of institutional structures anywhere in the passage. But let's take a look at other options as well. C says understanding the structures of perception is an important part of understanding how visual cultures work. Perception की बात यहाँ पे हुई है, visual cultures की बात हुई है. Visual culture is not just about how we see, but also about how our visual practices can impact and change the world. As I said, this is stated throughout the passage over and over again, right? The only thing which cannot be considered a valid inference is option B. No amount of social analysis can account fully for the existence of Michelangelo or Leonardo. Michelangelo, Leonardo, आपको पता है, Michelangelo was a great painter, Leonardo da Vinci. In light of the passage, which one of the following interpretations of this sentence is most accurate? So, if you go back to the passage, over here we say, no amount of social analysis can account fully for the existence of Michelangelo and Leonardo. They were unique creators of image that changed the way their contemporaries thought and felt. So, इसीलिए because they were unique, no amount of social analysis can account fully for the existence. Social analytical accounts of people like cannot explain their cheese. Exactly. No amount of explanation given. So, A should be the right answer. B says Michelangelo and Leonardo cannot be subjected to social analysis because of their genius. We're not saying they cannot be subjected to social analysis. What we're saying is cannot explain their genius. ये है C. C says no analysis exists of Michelangelo's or Leonardo's social accounts. यार ऐसा तो कुछ भी नहीं है. C, socially existing beings cannot be analyzed unlike the art of Michelangelo or Leonardo, which can. Far-fetched again. Seeing dash operates on the foundation of covenants with images that establish the conditions of meaningful visual experience. In light of the passage, which one of the following statements best conveys the meaning of this sentence? Seeing operates on the foundation of covenants with images that establish the condition for meaningful visual experience. Best answer in this case can be sight becomes a meaningful visual experience because of covenants of meaningfulness that we are established with the images we see. Yeah, A makes the best sense. The way we experience sight is through images operated by meaningful covenants. No, images are meaningful visual experiences when they have a foundation of covenants. Seeing them, D says, sight as a meaningful visual experience is possible when there is a foundational condition established in images of covenants. Clearly, option A. Yeah, ठीक है. Which set of keywords below most closely captures the argument of the passage? So, guys, imagery, visual culture, life worlds, and perception. I think I have the same order. Imagery, visual practices, life worlds, structures of perception. So this is the order of the passage. ठीक है? चलिए, let's move to the next passage. This is the passage. I'll show you the questions before I make you read the passage. Let's look at the questions now. A more eclectic history might have included the conquistadors, Vasco da Gama, and the East India Company. But Leher sticks to the disorganized small fry. So ये शायद पढ़ के ज़्यादा समझ में आएगा. From this statement, we can infer that the author believes, तो इस पे ध्यान देंगे, a more eclectic history might have included. Next, we can deduce that the author believes that piracy can best be controlled in the long run. So कहीं ना कहीं piracy की भी बात हुई होगी. Why toil away as a starving peasant in the 16th century when a successful pirate made up to 4,000 pounds on each raid? In this sentence, the author's tone can best be described as being, guys, I think it's not very. Okay, we'll get back to it. I don't think it's a very positive tone. The author ascribes the rise in piracy today to all of the following factors except. Ascribes मतलब relates. अनमोल जी, हम प्रैक्टिस करेंगे तो एग्जाम में भी बनेगा. प्रैक्टिस ही तो कर सकते हैं. Okay, let's read the passage now. turning the page now. So I think it's a very, very interesting passage. I per se found it very interesting. It talks about piracy and the roots of piracy. पायरेसी वो म्यूजिक पायरेसी नहीं, पायरेसी एज इन पायरेट्स वाली पायरेसी, जो आपने वो देखा होगा ना, एक आई पैच लगा के जो लूटते रहते हैं सब चीज़ों को. It says 174 incidents of piracy were reported to the International Maritime Bureau last year, with Somali pirates responsible for only 3. Guys, Somalia is actually very notorious for piracy. वहाँ पे बहुत सारे sea pirates हैं. तो ये basically बोलने चल रहे हैं Somali pirates responsible for only 3. मतलब there are other pirates at sea as well. The rest ranged from the discreet theft of coils of rope in the Yellow Sea to the notoriously ferocious Nigerian gunmen attacking and hijacking oil tankers in the Gulf of Guinea, as well as armed robbery of Singapore and the Venezuelan coast and kidnapping in the Sundarbans in the Bay of Bengal. For Dr. Peter Lair, an expert in modern day piracy, the phenomenon's history should be a source of instruction rather than entertainment. Piracy past offering lessons for piracy present. So what we're saying is, piracy, जो पहले piracy थी वो बता रहा है कि अभी piracy क्यों हो रही है. But where does the piracy begin or end? According to Saint Augustine, a corsair होता है pirate ship. A corsair captain once told Alexander the Great that in the forceful acquisition of power and wealth at sea, The difference between an empire and piracy was simply of one of scale. तो मतलब forceful acquisition तो आप भी कर रहे हो. Alexander the Great भी conquer कर रहा था सबको, ठीक है. Pirate बोलता है कि हम भी वही कर रहे हैं जो आप कर रहे हो. There is only a difference of scale. मतलब आप large scale पे कर रहे हो, हम छोटे scale पे कर रहे हैं. Logic almost similar. By this logic, European empire builders were the most successful pirates of all time. I think we can agree with it. In India, only the East India Company ruled us. So that is also a type of piracy. That's why they go on to say a more eclectic history might have included the conquistadors, Vasco da Gama, and the East India Company, because they also went to a foreign land and they forcefully acquired it. But Lair sticks out to the disorganized small fry, making comparison with the renegades of today possible. Small fry matlab not the big fish, जो छोटे मोटे लोग हैं. Making comparison with the renegades of today possible. Renegades is people who do not follow conventions. The main motive for piracy has always been a combination of need and greed. Why toil away as a starving peasant in the 16th century when a successful pirate made up to 4,000 pounds on each raid? Anyone could turn to freebooting if the rewards were worth the risk. Increased globalization has done more to encourage piracy than suppress it. In a way, globalization ने piracy को increase ही किया है. बहुत सारे countries से global companies आके settle हो रही हैं बहुत सारी companies में. That's also a type of piracy according to the passage. European colonialism weakened delicate balances of power, leading to an influx of opportunists on the high sea. A rise in global shipping has meant rich pickings for freebooters. Lair writes, it quickly becomes clear that in those parts of the world that have not profited from globalization and modernization, and where abject poverty and the daily struggle for survival are still a reality, the root causes of piracy are still the same they were a couple of 100 years ago. So we're saying not profited from globalization and modernization, abject poverty, daily struggle अभी भी है वहाँ पे. A perfect example, Nigeria, Somalia, yes. The root cause of piracy are still the same. Modern pirate prevention has failed. After the French yacht Legonat was ransomed for $2 million in 2008, opportunists from all over Somalia flocked to the coast for a piece of the action. A consistent rule even today is there are never enough warships to patrol pirate-invested waters. Such ships are costly and only solve the problem temporarily. Somali piracy is bound to return as soon as the warships are withdrawn. Robot shipping eliminating hostages has been proposed as a possible solution, but as Lair points out, this will only make pirates switch their targets to smaller carriers unable to afford the technology. Makes sense? His advice isn't new. Proposals to end illegal fishing are often advanced, but they are difficult to enforce. Investment in local welfare has put a halt to Malaysian piracy in 1970s. क्योंकि आप local welfare पे काम कर रहे थे, तो वहाँ पे abject poverty नहीं थी, इसलिए piracy कम हो गई. But was dependent on money somehow filtering through a corrupt bureaucracy to the poor on the periphery. Diplomatic initiatives against piracy are plagued by mutual distrust. So the Russians execute pirates. EU and US are reluctant to capture them for the fear that they'll claim asylum, political asylum. वो बोलेंगे हमें आप shelter दे दो. ठीक है. A more eclectic history might have included the conquistadors, Vasco da Gama, and the East India Company, but Lair sticks to the disorganized small fry. From this statement, we can infer that the author believes that सीधा सान है. A more eclectic history might have included this. So colonialism should be considered an organized form of piracy. वास्को डी गामा ने कॉलोनाइज किया था, ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी ने भी कॉलोनाइज किया था. The author is saying वो भी piracy ही था एक तरह से. A should be the best answer. Let's take a look at the others. Disorganized piracy of today is no match for the organized piracy of the past. ऐसा कहीं भी नहीं है. Lair does not assign adequate blame to empire builders for their past deeds. No, on the contrary, he goes ahead and assigns adequate blame. Vasco da Gama and the East India Company laid the ground for modern piracy. We can't say they laid the ground for modern piracy, but yes, we can say colonialism should also be considered an organized form of piracy. See, when Vasco da Gama and East India Company, they did this on a large scale. So there is no point that a pirate will be, inspired or motivated by such huge conquests. So it is far-fetched to say that they laid the ground for modern piracy. We can deduce that the author believes that piracy can best be controlled in the long run. कैसे? Through international cooperation in enforcing stringent deterrence? No. If we eliminate poverty and income disparities? Yes. क्योंकि अभी बोला ना पॉवर्टी कहाँ पर, पायरेसी वहां पे कॉमन है जहां पे द गुड्स ऑफ कॉलोनियलिज्म, सॉरी क्या बोलते, ग्लोबलाइजेशन से जिसको फायदा नहीं हुआ है, जहां पे पॉवर्टी अभी भी है. तो अगर आप पॉवर्टी और इनकम डिस्पैरिटी हटा दोगे तो लोग, पीपल विल नॉट टर्न टूवर्ड्स क्राइम. सी सेज थ्रू द एक्सटेंसिव डिप्लॉयमेंट ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी टू ट्रैक शिप्स एंड कार्गो, far-fetched again. D says through lucrative welfare schemes to improve the lives of people in affected regions. That's not the right answer either. Why toil away as starving peasant in the 16th century when a successful pirate made up to 4,000 pounds on each raid? In this sentence, the author's tone can best be described as being facetious about the hardships of peasants' life in medieval England. Guys, facetious is when you're making inappropriate fun of something. The author is not making inappropriate fun of anything. Ironic about the reasons why so many took to piracy in medieval times. Yes, exactly. This is the best answer. Also, if I take a look at the others, C says analytical to explain the contrast between present and pirate life. So, author is not trying to analyze. The author is not trying to contrast these two things. Indignant at the scale of wealth successful pirates could amass in medieval times. Indignant is justified anger. The only answer which fits in is ironic. Okay. The author ascribes to rise in piracy today to all of the following factors except question hai. The growth in international shipping with globalization? Yes, author does mention this. Colonialism's disruption of historic ties among countries? Author mentions this as well. The high reward via ransoms for successful piracy attempts? Yes, this is also mentioned. Decreased surveillance of the high seas? No, we're not saying decreased surveillance of the high seas. The rewards with ransoms, colonial disruptions? Yes. So, except D, the author ascribes to the rise in piracy to all of the following factors. Right? Okay. Let's move to the next question. It talks about a low carbon world, renewable energy. That's what I'm looking at. Renewables, resource extraction, carbon footprint, so on and so forth. तो मुझे एक आइडिया है कि पैसेज किसके बारे में होगा. All of the following statements, if true, could be seen as supporting the arguments in the passage except. So out of these, what do you say, 4 options, 3 would support the arguments in the passage, एक नहीं करेगा, जो नहीं करेगा वो आंसर होगा. Which of the following statements, if false, could be seen as best supporting the arguments in the passage? If false, could be seen as best supporting the arguments in the passage. चलिए इसको भी देखेंगे. Which one of the following statements, if true, could be an accurate inference from the first paragraph of the passage? Guys, if you see this passage, the questions of this passage are mostly critical reasoning questions. Which of the following if false, which of the following if true? इनको questions को बहुत ध्यान से देखना पड़ता है. They can get a little tricky. Which one of the following statements best captures the main argument of the last paragraph of the passage? Main argument of the last paragraph. Based on the passage, we can infer that the author would be most supportive of which one of the following practices? आपको इन्फ्रेंस क्वेश्चन है, इनमें से कौन सी प्रैक्टिस के लिए आपको लगता है ऑथर सपोर्टिव होगा? ठीक है, लेट्स रीड द पैसेज फर्स्ट. Let's look at the passage. The passage is about renewable energy and reducing carbon footprint. तो पहले ही पता चल गया था हमको देख के. In a low carbon world, renewable energy technologies are hot business. For investors looking to redirect funds, wind turbines and solar panels, among other technologies, seem a straightforward choice. But renewables need to be further scrutinized before being championed as forging a path toward a low carbon future. Both the direct and indirect impacts of renewable energy must be examined to ensure that a climate smart future does not intensify social and environmental harm. So, direct and indirect impacts of renewable energy, हमको ये देखना पड़ेगा, they do not intensify social and environmental harm. As renewable energy, as renewable energy production requires land, water and labor among other inputs, it imposes costs on people and the environment. Hydropower projects, for instance, have led to community dispossession and exclusion. Renewable energy supply chains are also intertwined with mining, and their technologies contribute to growing levels of electronic waste. Furthermore, although renewable energy can be produced and distributed through small-scale local systems, such an approach might not generate the high returns on investment needed to attract capital. ठीक है. Okay. Although an emerging sector, renewables are enmeshed in long-standing resource extraction through their dependence on minerals and metals. Scholars document the negative consequences of mining, even for mining operations that commit to socially responsible practices. Many of the world's largest reservoirs of minerals like cobalt, copper, lithium, and rare earth minerals, the ones needed for renewable technologies, are found in fragile states and under communities of marginalized people in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Since the demand for metals and minerals will increase substantially in a renewable powered future, this intensification could exacerbate the existing consequences of extractive activities. Exacerbate का मतलब होता है to make something worse. ठीक है जी. The demand for metals and minerals will increase substantially in renewable powered future. Intensification could exacerbate the existing consequences of extractive activities, क्योंकि आपको extract करना पड़ेगा, mining करनी पड़ेगी, तो उसकी वजह से वो चीजें और ज्यादा हो सकती हैं. Among the connection between climate change and waste, O'Neill highlights that devices developed to reduce our carbon footprint, such as lithium batteries for hybrid and electric cars or solar panels, become potentially dangerous electronic waste at the end of their productive life. Correct? The disposal of toxic waste has long perpetuated social injustice through the flows of waste to the global south to marginalized communities in the global north. तो हम क्या बोल रहे हैं बेसिकली, बोल रहे हैं रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी ज़रूरी है, लेकिन उससे कुछ कुछ प्रॉब्लम्स भी हो सकती हैं, क्योंकि हमें मिनरल्स कॉपर वगैरह चाहिए होंगे, उससे एक्सट्रैक्टिव एक्टिविटीज़ में प्रॉब्लम आएगी. क्लाइमेट चेंज एंड वेस्ट में ये फ़र्क पड़ेगा. फिर ये भी बोल रहे हैं इनजस्टिस कैसे है कि साउथ के पास ज़्यादा डिस्पोजल जाता है टॉक्सिक वेस्ट का. While renewable energy is a more recent addition to financial portfolios, investments in the sector must be considered in light of our understanding of capital accumulation. As the agricultural finance reveals, the concentration of control of corporate activity facilitates profit generation. For some climate activists, the promise of renewables rests on their ability not only to reduce emissions, but also to provide distributed, democratized access to energy. But Burke and Stephens caution that renewable energy systems offer a possibility, but not a certainty for more democratic energy futures. देखो ये क्या बोल रहा है? A possibility, not a certainty for more democratic energy futures. Small-scale distributed forms of energy are only highly profitable to institutional investors if control is consolidated somewhere in the financial chain. तो democratic नहीं होगा क्यों? क्योंकि सिर्फ जो ज़्यादा invest कर रहे हैं उनके पास चली जाएगी energy सारी. Renewable energy can be produced in the household or neighborhood level. However, such small-scale localized production is unlikely to generate high returns for investors. For financial growth to be sustained and expanded by the renewable sector, production and trade in renewable energy technologies will need to be highly concentrated, and large asset management firms will likely drive these developments. तो हम बात कर रहे हैं renewable energy की, और बात करने की ज़रूरी तो है, हमें we require renewable energy, but उसके cost और after effects क्या क्या हो सकते हैं. आ जाते हैं क्वेश्चंस पे। हाँ, सब लोग सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं आर्ग्यूमेंट को एक्सेप्ट ऑप्शन ए बोलता है मार्जिनलाइज्ड पीपल इन अफ्रीका, एशिया एंड लैटिन अमेरिका हैव ऑफन बीन मेन सफरर्स ऑफ द कॉर्पोरेट मिनरल एक्सट्रैक्शन प्रोजेक्ट्स। यस, ये तो ट्रू है। हमने बोला था कि एक्सट्रैक्शन की वजह से, जो लास्ट में लिखा था ना, ग्लोबल साउथ, मार्जिनलाइज्ड कम्युनिटीज इन द ग्लोबल नॉर्थ। बी बोल रहा है द एग्जाम्पल ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर एंड फाइनेंस helps us to see how to concentrate corporate activity in the renewable energy sector. Yes, example of agriculture finance, इसलिए तो हम बोल रहे थे कि डेमोक्रेटिक नहीं हो पाएगी वो, क्योंकि वो कॉन्सेंट्रेट हो जाएगी कॉर्पोरेट एक्टिविटी रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी सेक्टर में। ठीक है। One reason for the perpetuation of social injustice lies in the problem of the disposal of toxic waste, ये भी mention था। D, the possible negative impacts of renewable energy need to be studied before it can be offered as a financial investment opportunity। यार ये तो कहीं भी नहीं दिया हुआ फाइनेंशियल इन्वेस्टमेंट अपॉर्चुनिटी। सो डी डज नॉट सपोर्ट द आर्ग्यूमेंट। Which of the following statements, if false, could be seen as best supporting the arguments in the passage? If false, could be seen as best supporting the arguments in the passage. ए बोलता है रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी सिस्टम्स आर नॉट एज प्रॉफिटेबल एज नॉन रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी सिस्टम्स। हाँ, ठीक है। रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी सिस्टम्स आर नॉट एज प्रॉफिटेबल एज नॉन रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी सिस्टम्स। अगर इसको हम ऑपोजिट करते तो बोले कि रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी सिस्टम्स आर एज प्रॉफिटेबल एज नॉन रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी सिस्टम्स, तो ये तो सपोर्ट नहीं कर रहा, क्योंकि हमने बोला है ये इट्स नॉट एज प्रॉफिटेबल। ओके, बी बोल रहे हैं रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी सिस्टम्स आर एज एक्सपेंसिव एज नॉन रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी सिस्टम। इसका ऑपोजिट लेके देखते हैं, रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी सिस्टम्स आर नॉट एज एक्सपेंसिव एज नॉन रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी सिस्टम्स। तो यार ए और बी दोनों मुझे बता रहे हैं कि रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी सिस्टम को यूज करना चाहिए, क्योंकि एक तो दे आर एज प्रॉफिटेबल एंड दे आर नॉट एज एक्सपेंसिव। बट आर्ग्यूमेंट तो पैसेज तो पूरा ये बोल रहा है कि दैट रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी सिस्टम इज अ प्रॉब्लम। टॉक उसको कॉस्ट भी ज्यादा लग रही है और बहुत सारी चीजें भी इन्वॉल्व है। सी बोल रहा है द प्रोडक्शन एंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी थ्रू स्मॉल स्केल लोकल सिस्टम्स इज नॉट इकोनॉमिकली सस्टेनेबल। इसका भी अगर हम इसको फॉल्स लेके देखेंगे, ऑपोजिट ऑफ इट, देन वी वुड से द प्रोडक्शन एंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी थ्रू स्मॉल स्केल लोकल सिस्टम्स is economically sustainable. So A, B, C, all three tell me that renewable energy system is viable. We should be using it. D बोल रहा है energy systems have little or no environmental impact. इसका opposite लेके देखते हैं. Renewable energy systems have quite a lot of environmental impact, and this is exactly what is supporting the arguments in the passage. ठीक है. Which one of the following statements, if true, could be an accurate inference from the first paragraph of the passage? First paragraph क्या बोल रहा था? Low carbon world, renewable energy technology are a hot business, investors looking to do direct ones, but we have to look at direct and indirect impacts. ठीक है. Community dispersion and exclusion, electronic waste. ठीक. The author's only reservation about the profitability, so it's not the only की वजह से I can eliminate this. The author does not think renewable energy system can be as efficient as non-renewable energy system. कहीं भी नहीं लिखा है ऐसा पहले पैसेज में. The author raises doubts, but nowhere does the author says that renewable energy systems can be as efficient as cannot be as efficient as non-renewable energy systems. The author has reservations about the consequences of non-renewable energy systems. The author does not have consequences about non-renewable. देखो, again. The author has reservations about the consequences of renewable energy systems. यही तो बोल रहा है बार बार. Cost efficacy, impact on environment, so on and so forth. क्या समझा है भुवन, बताइए. क्या नहीं समझ में आया? पैसेज नहीं समझ में आया, क्वेश्चन नहीं समझ में आया. Which of the following statements best captures the main argument of the last paragraph of the passage? Main argument of the last paragraph of the passage. ठीक है, हम बोल रहे हैं this can be done household or neighborhood level. Such small scale localized production is unlikely to generate high returns for investors. For financial growth to be sustained and expanded by renewable sector, production and trade in renewable energy technologies will need to be highly concentrated, and large asset management firms will likely drive these developments. मतलब डेमोक्रेटिक नहीं हो पाएगा. भुवन, एक बार मुझे आप क्लियरली बताएंगे, क्या समझ नहीं आया तो मैं समझा पाऊंगा आपको. Let's take a look at 13th. Renewable energy systems are not democratic unless they are corporate controlled. Quite the opposite. If they are corporate controlled, they will not be democratic. Renewable energy produced at the household or neighborhood level is more efficient than mass produced forms of energy. कहीं भी more efficient की बात नहीं हुई है, ठीक है? C says the development of the renewable energy sector is a double-edged sword. Yes, it's a double-edged sword. It has its pros, it has its cons. So अच्छी चीजें भी हैं और खराब चीजें भी हैं. C could be a valid argument. D, most forms of renewable energy are not profitable investments for institutional investors. Nowhere do we say that most forms are not profitable investments. We're just saying large scale पे होना चाहिए. That's it. Based on the passage, we can infer that the author would be most supportive of which of the following practices? इनमें से किस चीज में सबसे ज्यादा सपोर्टिव होगा, कौन सी प्रैक्टिस में? ए बोल रहा है द स्टडी ऑफ द को एग्जिस्टेंस ऑफ मार्जिनलाइज्ड पीपल विद देयर एनवायरमेंट्स. दिस इज जस्ट नो, इट्स ओनली टॉकिंग अबाउट को एग्जिस्टेंस ऑफ मार्जिनलाइज्ड पीपल विद देयर एनवायरमेंट. तो ये बोल रहा है बेसिकली कि जो लोग सफर कर रहे हैं वो अपने एनवायरमेंट के साथ कैसे ठीक खुश रह सकते हैं. दैट्स द मेजर कोर्स ऑफ एक्शन. Encouragement for the development of more environment friendly carbon based fuels. This is too specific. It only talks about carbon based fuels, but हम बात कर रहे हैं renewable energy sources के. C says more stringent global policies and regulations to ensure a more just system of toxic waste disposal. हाँ, ये हो सकता है because the author expresses his discomfort at the irregular distribution of toxic waste. बोला ना, ग्लोबल साउथ को ज्यादा फेस करना रहता है और ग्लोबल नॉर्थ के कुछ मार्जिनलाइज्ड कम्युनिटीज को. सी कैन बी एन आंसर. द लोकलाइज्ड स्मॉल स्केल डेवलपमेंट्स ऑफ रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी सिस्टम्स. द लोकलाइज्ड स्मॉल स्केल डेवलपमेंट ऑफ रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी सिस्टम्स. दिस इज अ लिटिल फार फेच्ड. सी इज व्हाट द ऑथर वुड मोस्ट सपोर्ट. ओके, another passage. Aggression in any behavior is directed towards injuring, harming, inflicting pain. It goes on to talk about violent crimes. ठीक है, violence की बात हो रही है basically, aggression की बात हो रही है. The question: an enemy combatant may be subjected to torture in order to extract useful intelligence, though those inflicting the torture may have no real feelings of anger and animosity towards their subject. हाँ, ऐसा ही होता है generally. Which one of the following best explicates the larger point being made by the author here? ठीक है. All of the following statements can be seen as logically implied by the arguments of the passage except, तो इन चार में से तीन तो इंप्लाई हो रही है, एक नहीं हो रही है, आपको बताना है कौन सा. The author identifies three essential factors according to which theories of aggression are most commonly categorized. Which of the following options is closest to the factors identified by the author? Okay. And then you have the author discusses all of the following arguments in the passage except that. तो तीन में से चार डिस्कस कर रहा होगा, जो डिस्कस नहीं कर रहा है वो आपको बताना है. Let's read the passage. When will I come to teach you? मुझे पता नहीं है अभी नक्षत्र, तो फिलहाल ये देखते हैं. Aggression is any behavior that is directed toward injuring, harming, or inflicting pain on another living being or group of beings. Generally, the victims of aggression must wish to avoid such behavior in order for it to be considered true aggression. Aggression is also categorized according to its ultimate intent. Hostile aggression is an aggressive act that results from anger and is intended to inflict pain or injury because of that anger. Instrumental aggression is an aggressive act that is regarded as a means to an end other than pain or injury. For example, an enemy combatant may be subjected to torture in order to extract useful intelligence, though those inflicting the torture may have no real feelings of anger or animosity towards their subject. The concept of aggression is very broad and includes many categories of behavior: verbal aggression, street crime, child abuse, spouse abuse, group conflict, war, etc. A number of theories and models of aggression have arisen to explain these diverse forms of behavior, and these theories models tend to be categorized according to their specific focus. The most common system of categorization groups the various approaches to aggression into three separate areas based upon the three key variables that are present whenever any aggressive act or set of acts is committed. The first variable is the aggressor himself or herself. The second is the social situation or circumstance in which the aggressive acts occur. The third variable is the target or victim of aggression. Regarding theories and research on the aggressor, the fundamental focus is on the factors that lead an individual or group to commit aggressive acts. At the most basic level, some argue that aggressive urges and actions are the result of inborn biological factors. Sigmund Freud, 1930, proposed that all individuals are born with the death instinct that predisposes us to a variety of aggressive behaviors, including suicide, self-directed aggression, or mental illness, possibly due to an unhealthy or unnatural suppression of aggressive urges. Other influential perspectives supporting a biological basis for aggression conclude that humans evolved an abnormally low neural inhibition of aggressive impulses in comparison to other species, and that human possesses a powerful instinct for property accumulation and terrorism. तो हम बता रहे हैं aggressive behavior कहाँ से आ सकता है. कहाँ से आ रहा है aggressive behavior? ठीक है. It is proposed that this instinct accounts for hostile behaviors ranging from minor street crime to world wars. Hormonal factors are also appear to play a significant role in fostering aggressive tendencies. For example, the hormone testosterone has been shown to increase aggressive behaviors when injected into animals. Men and women convicted of violent crimes also possess significantly higher levels of testosterone than men and women convicted of non-violent crimes. Numerous studies comparing different age groups, racial, ethnic groups, and cultures also indicate that men overall are more likely to engage in a variety of aggressive behaviors, sexual assault, aggravated assault, etc., than women. One explanation for higher levels of aggression in men is based on the assumption that on average, men have higher levels of testosterone than women, which is actually true as well, right? Okay. An enemy combatant may be subjected to torture in order to extract useful intelligence through those inflicting torture may have no real feelings of anger or animosity towards their subject. Which one of the following best explicates the larger point being made by the author here? A. In certain kinds of aggression, inflicting pain is not the objective. So, the inflicting pain is not the objective. The objective is to extract useful information, which is basically utilitarian. So, A looks good. When an enemy combatant refuses to reveal information, the use of torture can sometimes involve real feelings of hostility. It is quite the opposite of what is being said in the passage. See, information revealed by subjecting an enemy combatant to torture is not always reliable because of the animosity involved. We are not talking about whether the information is reliable or not. This is misleading. D says the use of torture to extract information is most effective when the torturer is not emotionally involved in the torture. We're not talking about the efficacy of the torture, okay? We're only talking about what happens there, right? So A. Nakshatra, because it's not upon me. I don't decide where I take classes. So there are multiple, places where I'm involved in. I'm involved in CUET, IPMAT, OMED. I'm involved in previous year's papers as well. So बहुत सारी चीजें चल रही हैं. So मुझे पता नहीं होता exactly मैं कहाँ पे किस टाइम पे क्लास लूँगा. All of the following statements can be seen as logically implied by the arguments of the passage except Freud's theory of aggression proposes that aggression results from the suppression of aggressive urges. Yes, बोला था. The Freudian theory of suicide as self-inflicted aggression implies that an aggressive act need not be sought to be avoided in order for it to be considered aggression. ये भी बोला है. A common theory of aggression is that it is the result of an abnormally low neural regulation of testosterone. In fact, it's the opposite. It is high neural regulation of testosterone. So C is incorrect. So it's not obviously logically inclined. D says if the alleged aggressive act is not sought to be avoided, it cannot really be considered aggression. Right? The author identifies three essential factors according to which theories of aggression are most commonly categorized. Which of the following options is closest to the factors identified by the author? Extreme, moderate, mild, hostile, instrument, hormonal, nahi. Yes, aggressor, circumstances of aggression, victim. This is exactly how the author has designed the passage in this particular order. Psychologically, sociologically, medically तो कहीं भी नहीं बोला है. The author discusses all of the following arguments in the passage except, तो मतलब सब कुछ डिस्कस किया होगा, एक डिस्कस नहीं किया होगा. Aggression in most societies is kept under control through moderating the death instinct identified by Freud. ऐसा कहीं भी नहीं दिया हुआ. Moderating the death instinct की कहीं बात नहीं हुई है. The nature of aggression can vary depending on several factors including intent. ठीक है. Men in general are believed to be more hormonally driven to exhibit violence than women. Yes, ये भी ठीक है. Several studies indicate that aggression may have roots in biological condition of humanity. Correct. So the author discusses all of the following arguments except A. So this was the paper 2020 slot 2. I will meet you in the next week and we'll do some more RC exercises. Okay. Thank you so much for joining in. I will see you when I see you in the next class.